that's the only way we can secure our border at this time. That's what we're doing right now. The floor debate is happening on my articles of impeachment against Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. That is the task we are undertaking, and I really hope to see my colleagues vote yes to impeach Secretary Mayorkas.
That was Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that the only way that we can secure the border is by impeaching Secretary Mayorkas. Now, she was absolutely grilled today by many members of Congress, particularly Jamie Raskin, Jared Moskowitz, and Benny Thompson. I'm going to show you those clips in just a second, but first, a little bit of context. Now, despite what Marjorie Taylor Greene and her ilk say, there is, in fact, a bipartisan border deal that Senate Democrats and Republicans have agreed to. Marjorie Taylor Greene and the MAGA caucus came out this weekend and basically said it is dead on arrival and that they're not even going to look at it. So House Speaker Mike Johnson said the bill to secure the border won't even get a vote in the House. And instead, they're going to move forward with an impeachment of Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas. And in that impeachment inquiry, Speaker Johnson has made Marjorie Taylor Greene the impeachment manager, despite this having no chance of succeeding, even if for some reason it does pass the House. So here's what Congressman Jared Moskowitz had to say today on Speaker Johnson's appointment of Marjorie to impeachment manager on the Midas Touch Network.
But Republicans have the brilliant idea to make Marjorie Taylor Greene one of the impeachment managers?
Yeah, listen, America is demanding more of Marjorie Taylor Greene. I hear it all the time. She's fabulous. Okay, just totally wonderful, charming, right? Just a real people person. Feel like you can connect with her on a real human level, right? Very level-headed, doesn't seem angry or bitter, sticks to the facts and the truth. The darling, quite frankly, of the middle of the country. And so Republicans were like, let's feature her on national television. In fact, let's put her in the Senate and let her make the case on why we should impeach a secretary, which hasn't happened in 150 years. I think it's an excellent choice, really, by Speaker Johnson, showing that he really is committed to continuing to destroy the 118th Congress.
Congressman Jared Moskowitz pointing out the sheer brilliance of making Marjorie Taylor Greene impeachment manager. Here's what Congressman Jamie Raskin, in a speech he gave on the House floor, had to say about Marjorie Taylor Greene earlier today, poking fun at the sheer brilliance of the Congresswoman in general.
The gentleman from Maryland is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Chairman, we're here because the madcap wild goose chase to impeach Joe Biden has produced no wild geese. Even Fox News is lampooning the fact that their own expert witnesses repeatedly say President Biden did nothing wrong and there are no grounds for impeachment. More than a dozen GOP members in Biden majority districts don't want to go anywhere near that fantasy production. So the Trump-Putin mega faction, headed up by the distinguished gentlelady from Georgia, has been given this worthless trinket of a consolation prize, the opportunity to bring a slapstick impeachment drive against a cabinet member of unimpeachable integrity who has obviously committed no treason, no bribery, no high crimes, no misdemeanors, nothing indictable or even indictable, if you prefer.
Now, for those of you who don't recall, Raskin was referencing earlier this week when Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is leading the impeachment of Secretary Mayorkas, couldn't even pronounce indictable. Here's that clip.
This historical evidence is overwhelming that the founding fathers intended impeachment to be used to deal with the commission of indictable crimes and the abuse of power, corruption, and injury to the nation caused by public officials, among others.
Indictable. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Republican Party's best and brightest. Now, Marge also gave a press conference today where she referred to those who tried to violently overthrow our government simply as protesters, which Congressman Raskin also responded to on the House floor today as well, which we're going to show you in a little bit. Here's the clip of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
And then the American people who pay for elections with their tax dollars actually own the elections and have the right the right to care about their elections, election integrity, and the results of their elections. When they came to Washington and protested, all of you called it an insurrection. And then when Joe Biden was inaugurated and this entire Capitol complex was surrounded with 30,000 National Guard troops, none of you stood there and called that an insurrection. Oh no, you all stayed silent.
Yes, that was Marge comparing Joe Biden's inauguration security to an insurrection, completely ignoring the fact that President Biden only needed so much security for one reason only. They were worried that Republicans would try to violently overthrow the government again, which is what they had just done a few weeks prior on January 6th. Here's what Congressman Raskin had to say about her love of these, quote, peaceful protesters in another hearing earlier today.
During some of her heckling of our colleagues, the gentlelady from Georgia described the January 6th insurrectionists, who I know are close to her heart, as political prisoners and as hostages. I'm sorry, the Proud Boys are not political prisoners like Nelson Mandela or Alexander Solzhenitsyn. The Oath Keepers are not hostages like the people being held, Israelis and Americans being held by Hamas. A hostage is someone who has been illegally abducted by a criminal organization and held for a financial or a political ransom. And the thought that they would compare people, a majority of whom have pled guilty for assaulting federal officers, destroying federal property, or engaging in seditious conspiracy, which means conspiracy to overthrow the government, to hostages or to political prisoners, demonstrates the complete collapse of critical thinking skills on that side of the aisle. I would hope some of Ms. Greene's colleagues, not just on the Democratic side, but on the Republican side, would at least disassociate themselves from the claim that that convicted January 6th insurrectionists are political prisoners or hostages. I know that Donald Trump has trafficked in such foul abuse. I know that Elise Stefanik has repeated his claims for her own reasons, but I would hope that others would maintain the essential semantic, logical, rational, and moral distinction between people who have been convicted of assaulting our officers and people who've been abducted by terrorist organizations. I thank the gentleman from Texas, and I yield back.
Jamie Raskin, brilliant as always. And finally, here's Rep. Benny Johnson responding to Marjorie Taylor Greene on the House floor today, detailing her history of conspiracy theories and other deranged ideas she has put forward over the years.
They must own the policies of murder and crime of American citizens, or they can admit Secretary Mayorkas has broken federal laws and vote to impeach Secretary Mayorkas.
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
I reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Mississippi is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Though she sits on the Homeland Security Committee, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has raised doubts about 9/11 to the false assertion that 9/11 was done by our own government. She said that's all true. She also thinks Jewish space lasers cause wildfires. She fundraises off defunding the FBI. She's a person whose advice Republicans are taking today on this impeachment. I now yield 1 minute to the gentleman from California.
So really just a brutal day for Marjorie Taylor Greene, the conspiracy theorist, MAGA extremist, and really, unfortunately, one of the most powerful members of Congress now. It would be one thing if she were just some ostracized Republican like George Santos, a joke, someone that even Republicans wanted out. But she truly has become one of the most popular members of Congress amongst Republicans and one of the faces of the Republican Party. So much so that the House Speaker is making her the impeachment manager of Secretary Mayorkas's impeachment hearing. She's been put on the House Foreign Relations Committee, and she is nationally one of the top Republican fundraisers in America. So Republicans once again putting on full display their best and brightest and what they stand for. Uneducated, simple-minded conspiracy theorists who rile up the base. For Really American, I'm Justin Horwitz. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not. We're going to be really ramping things up going into the next election, and you don't want to miss it. Thanks for joining.